Randy. Thank you. And good morning to everyone out there. How are you? How are all the Patriots out there doing this morning? I hope you're having a great weekend as well. If you were here with us last night, we had a great hyperdrive early edition last night. We'll get that uploaded here in the next day or so. In the meantime, you can always go over and check out my YouTube channel and check out. I'm out of YouTube jail, by the way, so I will be uploading some of the shows that I've been saving until I was released from my the indiscretion of putting up a video that had Dr. Shiva in it. Oh, good heavens. It's when they start trampling on the truth, you're over the target. Anyway, just want to say good Sunday morning to all of you folks, and don't go anywhere. We got lots of great stuff on the Patriot Soapbox for the rest of the day as well. Started out great. We had Aaron and then Brent in there, and now you get me. Won't that be fun? One of the things, as you can see from the my background there, that is a shot that I found that was taken recently. This is the Air Force Thunderbirds and the United States Navy Blue Angels. The Blue Angels flying their brand new FA-18 Super Hornets there, and the Air Force flying their Falcon fighter jets. And because of what they did last year with the flyovers, showing appreciation to all the healthcare workers out there, we're dealing with you know what, trying to raise the spirits of folks. They decided, I think, to work a little bit closer, which is something that the two teams have never really done before. Very rarely did you ever see the Blue Angels and the Air Force Thunderbirds in the same place at the same time. There was always a, they're public relations resources. Why would you want to bring them all together at the same place when you can have one over here and the other one over here? And they were always, when I was on the team, it was, there was always a concerted effort to keep the two teams sufficiently separated on any one weekend so that you didn't have competing air shows. Okay. So the two teams rarely, if ever, publicly got together. Now, however, once a year, the teams would get together and compare notes, and it wasn't publicized. And it was either at our home station in Pensacola, or it was at Nellis Air Force Base, which is in Nevada, just outside of Las Vegas, where the Thunderbirds are home based. No, I wasn't a pilot. I was part of the ground crew, Lacey May. It was a very special part of my Navy career. However, whether I flew them or worked on them, it was absolutely an amazing time for me, and absolutely an honor to have had that opportunity, which so few people do get. And I was blessed with that opportunity. However, I did get a ride in the Blue Jet, though. I've ridden in a Blue Angel Blue Jet out in El Centro, California. They offered everybody on the team an opportunity to go up if they wanted to. I was like, you're darn right I'm going. I wouldn't have missed that in a heartbeat. No, absolutely. But anyway, because of the cooperation between the two teams last year doing the flyovers over the various cities throughout the country, they decided to work a little bit closer, I believe, in the coming years. And so what happened just a few weeks ago was the Thunderbirds came down from Nellis to El Centro, California, which is out in the Imperial Valley there, about 110 miles east of San Diego. The two teams got together and did some flying and things like that. They also, if they are going to be doing stuff like that, the two teams need to get out and practice together. And as you can see in this photo, the Blue Angels are in the lead of the formation, and the Thunderbirds are behind them. There's I don't know if there's any. I can more or less guess as to why that the formation is set up like that. One is the United States Navy Blue Angels are the most senior of the military demonstration teams out there. So when you're looking at military and the hierarchy and everything, your senior service, your senior officers, senior enlisted, it all is in seniority. Okay. And the Blue Angels are the senior team. They were formed in 1946. I'm not sure when the Thunderbirds were formed, but the Blue Angels were formed in 1946, which was prior to the Air Force Thunderbirds. That makes them the senior team. Also, as you can see in that picture there, I personally think it looks more impressive with the bigger FA-18s in the center of the formation and the Thunderbird jets, which are a smaller, just a smaller airframe. I think that formation looks really cool. Meaning nobody takes a second seat to anybody there. You're talking some extremely well trained aviators for the Navy and pilots for the Air Force. that is one of the difference. The Navy calls their pilots aviators, where in the Air Force you're a pilot. And the Navy has always said, well, we land on and off we take on and off carriers and things like that. That means we're aviators. Okay. So anyway, that's the formation, and as in addition to that, then there's Fat Albert, the C-130 airport support aircraft that I flew on the support bird, Fat Albert. This is a new Fat Albert, by the way. The old Fat Albert that we had for years and years and years was finally retired here last year. And so they now have a new upgraded C-130 that is got the blue and gold paint job on it, flown by the Marine Corps. And it flies to all the air show sites and provides support to the team. Okay, David Marr says U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds founded in 1953. So, yeah. So anyway, just thought we'd have a little fun with the Blue Angels, because the show season will be starting here in April. It's starting later than normal. Normally, they'd be going into show season about now. But the transition from the FA-18 Hornet, which is what, when I was on the team, that's what we did. My first season on the team is we transitioned to the new Hornets. And this year they are transitioning over to the Super Hornet, which is a little bit larger, a little more powerful, updated systems. And so they are working on getting all of the ins and outs of that new airframe, because it basically is a new airframe. It's the same airplane, but it's new. So learning how its characteristics work within an air show, how they can take advantage of the greater power and the newer systems on board the aircraft in an air show configuration is one of the things that they have to get used to during winter training. As you can see, I put the show schedule up for y'all. Their first show is in Lakeland, Florida, Sun and Fun Aerospace Expo on the 17th and 18th of April. So that's when they will be coming out of winter training. So we added a little bit extra time to the winter training scenario this year in order to make sure they've got all the bugs worked out as much as possible before they go into show season. Be looking for them down in Lakeland, and then they'll be heading out to NAS Corpus Christi, Fort Lauderdale, Melbourne, Florida, Annapolis, Maryland. That will be the graduation of the graduating class at Annapolis this year. That's a standard. Do that every year, and then on and on. I'll give you a link to this if you guys want it, and you can, if the Blue Angels are going to be in an area near you, get out there and get to an air show. They're a ton of fun, and it's not just the Blue Angels. There's usually a lot of other aircraft that show up for that. Might even get to see a very, very exciting performance by one of the Raptors, or possibly even the F-35. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I do, however, have a video that I would like to show you guys. I found it just the other day, and should have been ready for this. I got to go dig it out. I know where I put it, though, I think. I thought it was pretty cool. Let's see here. Okay. This video, you may have recalled, I showed you a video of Boss Rude. He was the commanding officer when I was on the team, when I got there. That was during the time of the transition from the A-Force to the F-18s. They have actually called Boss Rude back, or he's volunteered to come back. He is helping the team through this transition, having learned so much during the time when we transitioned the aircraft. He's down there to kind of, help them through some of the issues and different things that we came up with. We had a few little issues that came up where we had to kind of, reinvent the air show in some respects and whatever else. And during that time, there were some pilots that most of the pilots were held over from the previous year. However, there was one pilot that was not, he was brand new to the team. And his name was Lieutenant Wayne Molnar. Just a great guy, really great guy. And his first year on the team, he was our narrator. Well, they did a little catching up with him here recently, and they videotaped it. Found it on, I found it over on Facebook and one of our alumni sites. Seeing Mr. Molnar again, haven't seen Mr. Molnar since what, about 1988, I think it was. My son was born in 1988 when I was a member of the team. I can remember we did a little end of the season video, and I remember Mr. Molnar's. We asked him to do a little special thing for the boss and different stuff. So it was fun. He had a great sense of humor. Still kicking around. He's still with us and everything. But this was kind of an update, and his recollections of when he came to the team as a newbie pilot on the team. And he shares some interesting stories about his time coming to the team, learning how to fly an air show, and that. I thought you guys would enjoy seeing it. So for the next 17 minutes, you're going to be listening to Wayne Molnar, Blue Angel pilot, from when I was on the team. Here we go.
You're working so hard to, for 35 minutes or whatever it is that you're airborne, there's somewhere you need to be every second. So you're trying to get there on time, on speed, and be where you need to be so that the next maneuver comes in on time. I majored in phys ed at Florida State. I taught school in my hometown at a middle school. I was coaching basketball and golf, even though I don't play golf. And I've got 3 younger sisters, and one of them wanted to be an aerospace engineer and always had interest in NASA. And so my father said, well, maybe you ought to go take flying lessons. Well, there's a grass strip a couple of miles from home, so she went out there and took lessons in a Cessna. And I just couldn't stand it that my snot-nosed little sister was doing something way cooler than what I was doing. So I went out and took a couple of lessons myself. Well, this was the summer after I was teaching that first year, and I found out that I was not made to be a school teacher. And so I wandered into a recruiter's office one day. My dad had been bugging me, go see a recruiter. And I didn't want anything to do with the military. This wasn't all that long after the Vietnam War, so it was not a popular thing to be in the military. So I wandered into an office, and my dad had been in the Marine Corps Reserve, so I went to see the Marine first. He was on the phone, so I said, I'll come back later. So I went next door to the Navy guy, and he starts flipping through a notebook. Picture on one side, job description on the other, and flips through ships and submarines and turns the page, and there's an airplane. I thought, well, that's kind of cool. What do you have to do for that? He says, come back Saturday, I'll give you the test. I went, nah, I'm not going to waste my Saturday doing that. Well, he kept pushing and pushing. Finally, he's like, all right, I'll come Saturday and you do the test. 6 months later, I'm in officer candidate school at Pensacola with a brand new haircut. Didn't have my shoulder length hair like I did in college. And started flying airplanes, and it was the luckiest thing that ever happened to me. I was chosen to be a surgrad, which means selectively retained graduate. What it really means is the Navy was too cheap to send you to the fleet and then bring you back as an instructor. And they thought, you know, we could save some money if we took some of these guys that just graduated and we'll make them instructors. That way we don't have to move them to the West Coast or the East Coast and then bring them back 3 or 4 years later to be an instructor. So that's what happened to me. I didn't want to do it at the time. I was not happy about that. It's like, wait a minute, I just quit being a teacher because I don't like being a teacher, and now you're going to make me be a teacher again. But looking back, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I got some more time and experience. And back then, the deal was you got your first choice after being a surgrad of what airplane you wanted to fly. And I really wanted to fly the Tomcat. So it got me there. I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not been a surgrad. So in the long run, couldn't have been better. But I was at Miramar. I went to VF2, the bullets. Deployed aboard USS Kitty Hawk. It wasn't that long after the hostage crisis in Iran, so there was always a carrier off the coast of Iran. So that was kind of the routine. You'd go through Hawaii, Japan, you know, Hong Kong, Singapore, Thailand, and you know, work your way over Philippines, and then you'd relieve whatever carrier was in the Indian Ocean off the coast of Iran at that time. They'd normally been out there for roughly 90 days. There was a little article, one paragraph, as I recall, in the ship's newspaper. There was an article in there that said the Blue Angels are accepting applications for, you know, public affairs officer, a flight surgeon, a C-130 pilot, and 3 demo pilots or something like that. Typical ad they send out every December or January. I never dreamed of it, and even then it was like I was kind of embarrassed to even think maybe I could do that. But you're out there at sea, you got time to think. So fortunately, the XO of my sister squadron was Vance Parker, Star Parker. So I saw him in the hallway one day, and I pulled him aside and said, hey, what do you think? You know, should I try something like that? Or am I, you know, just be honest with me. Tell me I'm crazy if I shouldn't do it. But he was very encouraging. He couldn't have been any more positive. I'm like, wow, that's something. Well, our CAG, commander of the air group, was Ernie Christensen, another former Blue. So one day I see him in the hall, and I was like, CAG, can I talk to you off to the side? So same kind of thing. I asked him this question, like, you know, what do you think? I don't know about this, you know, am I crazy? And he was the same way. He was like, no, give it a shot. You got nothing to lose, go for it, you know. So I thought, what the heck? So I submitted the paperwork, and this was rather painful. They get me on the phone in the ready room, but they're having a brief going on. So I'm on the phone, kind of hiding behind the desk of the squadron duty officer, trying not to interrupt their briefing. It's Kurt Watson is doing most of the talking. And he says, you know, we had the Miramar Air Show a couple of weeks ago, and you didn't even come by to see us. You know, that was really disappointing because, you know, we kind of thought you had a chance, but when you didn't come, and I'm like, no, I didn't come. I just didn't want to bother you guys. I've been hanging out with you for a month, so I figured you were tired of me. So I'll just leave you alone. He goes, well, you know, sorry. You know. And then all the other guys are on the other lines, and so they all chime in, welcome aboard, you know, and you're coming to Pensacola. So that changed my life. I was a narrator. That was the last year of the A4, 1986. You don't go to winter training right away when everybody else does. They normally go the first week of January and train until about middle of March, and you start flying air shows. The way it works for the narrator and number 8, the events coordinator, they go together in the 2-seat airplane, and they go to all the show sites around the country. They meet with the FAA, the Air Show Committee, just set up all the little things that have to be arranged ahead of time, trying to make sure that they're on track to be able to provide all the things that we need so that they can have an air show. So you don't show up in El Centro till about first or second week of February. And so then as the narrator, I would go out to the desert each day when they're out there practicing their maneuvers. I'm out there, the guys have set up a speaker system with a microphone, and you narrate to the rabbits and roadrunners and snakes out there, and do that twice a day and try to learn your narration. But I was glad to be the narrator my first year. A lot of guys, I don't want to do that. You're just a gopher. I want to be flying in the air show. Well, I'm a slow learner, so I thought this would help me a lot. Give me a year to figure out the rest of this Blue Angel stuff, and then get me into the flying part, and that'll give me a leg up, next year.
This is Lieutenant Wayne Malner, narrator for the Blue Angels. Since 1940.
The main thing that had everybody excited was this was the last A4 show and the first, Hornet team to follow. And so at the end of the show, show's over, the jets pull in, they park, and then, okay, from the right, Cliff Skelton, who's going to be the narrator next year, relieved me of my job. He was an F-18 RAG instructor in Jacksonville. He'd been picked, and so he taxis out the first blue and gold Hornet and parks it right by the boss's blue and gold A4. And so that was kind of the moment, that everybody'd been waiting for. Pat Walsh, our slot pilot, he was the only guy on the team other than Cliff Skelton that had any F-18 time. So he'd written a training syllabus for us. So, we went to Jacksonville to NAS Cecil Field, which was where the F-18 RAG was. We went through a shortened course. I want to say it was like a dozen flights. I don't remember, but it was a quick, like 3-week course. We spent some time in the simulator going through procedures and emergency training and things like that. And then we flew some flights around Cecil. I remember going down, we flew to Key West over a weekend, and we flew like 3 flights a day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then came back, more training the next week. So it's kind of quick and dirty. And then they said, all right, you're qualified, good luck, don't mess it up, and off we go to El Centro. But El Centro was really busy. And as a new guy, actually that year, I was the only new guy of the 6 demo pilots. They froze the rest of the team. The Diamond was the same 4 guys in the same 4 spots. Kurt Watson had been on the last A4 team, but that was his 4th year. And so he left. Dave Anderson went from opposing solo to number 5 as the lead solo, and he trained me. If anybody was holding up the training process, it was me. So I just buried my head and tried to do as best I could. Hollywood couldn't have been a better lead solo. He was so patient with me. So El Centro was great. It worked out really well, but yeah, a lot of pressure to make sure we were progressing and going to be on time to start the season. First air show was at Yuma, Arizona, Marine Corps Air Station over there. Yeah, it was suddenly different because now we'd been practicing at El Centro, so you knew where all the checkpoints were, you knew how to set up the maneuvers. You weren't good, but you were getting better at it. Well, now we just flew over to Yuma, and now there's all different checkpoints, different runways, different landmarks, different buildings, different roads, different trees, different houses, different patterns. And so your first time out of the chute, you're trying to deal with that, and you've never done that before. You've never gone to a new place to learn all the checkpoints. So that was the hardest part. I remember finishing the first day, you circle around, normally 2 airplanes at a time, so 5 and 6 would circle around, and you're comparing your photograph to what's on the ground, trying to decide what you're going to use for your 3-mile checkpoint, your 2-mile checkpoint, so forth. And I remember thinking at the end of the day, it's like, there is no way I can fly an air show tomorrow. But we walked out to the jets and flew an air show the next day, so it worked. Most solo pilots will tell you their favorite maneuver was the tuck-over roll. And if you ask them what was your hardest maneuver, they would say the tuck-over roll. That was probably also why it was their favorite, because if you got it right, you felt real good about it. And what that is solos would come in from the right, and number 6 is leading this one. Most of them have done. So you roll it in upside, both of you guys are upside down, so 5 is flying formation on 6. And as you get close to center point, about 1,200 feet right, as I remember, the lead solo says, ready, hit it, and both airplanes roll simultaneously, so you actually lose sight of each other in the roll, and then you go out the other side. And so to the crowd, it looks like you've, well, obviously come in upside down, but it looks like the airplanes have switched positions during this roll, and then you go out the other side. And it's just hard to get that right every time. San Francisco was probably most people's favorite. It was very hard. It was also flown by design late in the season because you weren't good enough to fly that show in March or April. People are surprised to hear you say that the show might be different early in the season than later. Yeah, the team gets better as the season goes on. You move maneuvers a little closer and a little lower to the ground, a little closer, lower to the ground. So a team you see fly in April and a team you see fly in October, you see quite a bit of a different air show. You'll see a refined, better air show, better formation. But most people will tell you the harder ones are the ones they also like the most, just because it was so cool. It's like, you mean I get to
in there.
And this team you fly in October, you see quite a bit of a different air show. You'll see a refined, better air show, better formation. But most people will tell you the harder ones are the ones they also like the most, just because it was so cool. It's like, you mean I get to fly over downtown San Francisco, I can do pylon turns around buildings, and there are 100 people on every roof waving at you, and I'm waving at them as I fly by. So you get to do that, and you get to fly right along Fisherman's Wharf and Golden Gate Bridge over here, the Oakland Bay Bridge over there, and make all the noise I want for 30 minutes. It's like, it's pretty fun. The crew chiefs we had, those are the ones you get the closest to because you spend time. They own the jet. They just let me borrow it for 30 minutes a day. And it's almost like a competition between crew chiefs to see who had the best looking jet. I mean, they'd go out there and wax the thing in the middle of the night. My crew chief would take white out, the stuff he used to correct typing with, and he'd go out to my tires and he would make the Goodyear into white letter tires on my plane. Nobody else had white letter tires but mine. He would spend extra time polishing the, what we call the turkey feathers. It's the nozzles on the back of the engines, because they were a material that didn't shine very much. He polished mine. So, I mean, those guys were just great. Sometimes they might have to work all the way through the night. I remember in the Hornet, something had happened with the fuel cell. There was a leak or something, so they take the top of the airplane off right behind the canopy. They got everything out, and there's this big fuel cell. Well, Fat Albert flew somewhere, got the bladder for that, flew it back. Middle of the night, they reinstalled that thing. We flew a test hop on it the next morning, and it's back in the air. So nobody ever knew there was a problem. But those are the kind of things they will do without being asked. They're just going to make sure that jet's ready to fly tomorrow. Really great guys. So we met with the T-Birds that first year out in Nellis at Las Vegas at their base. Flew air shows together, and then went out to have some Mexican food and a couple of cocktails, and we just had a blast yucking it up with those guys. I mean, it was like we were brothers. We didn't know these guys, but you know, we're cut from the same cloth, and so we had a great time. Then the next year, they came to Pensacola. These guys had been on the road for 3 or 4 weeks, you know, East Coast trip, so they go from one to the other without going back to Nellis. Well, so they fly in that afternoon, and while they're doing their circling maneuvers to pick up their checkpoints, because we're going to fly a practice air show together the following day, they finish doing that, they land, and so we're going through a debrief and kind of setting up what we've got arranged for the next couple of days while they're in town. And these guys are all scratch golfers, and they are so excited because when they're circling the field, they can see the golf course there at NAS Pensacola. And it's like, man, this is going to be great. They've been wanting some days off because they've been working for a month straight. And so they all get out, they've all got their custom golf bags, you know, Thunderbirds written all over the thing. And these guys are scratch golfers. I think we only had one guy that ever even picked up a putter before, and that was a putt-putt. Well, so we thought this through ahead of time because the Thunderbirds are known for high class with everything they have and do. So we're going to form up in the parking lot the next morning, and we're going to go play golf. We had some golf balls made up with the Blue Angel logo on it. So we're passing the golf balls out and the tees and everything. They've got their stuff loaded up. We got like 10 cars. And so we tell them, oh, by the way, we're not going to play at the course on base. We're playing at a country club in town, and we're going to stop and pick up a couple of our honorary Blue Angels. They're going to play with us. So just follow us. And so we're leading the way out there. Well, we get, I don't know, it's about a mile or so out the base, and we pull into a bowling alley. And they're like, what are we doing here? Oh, we're just picking up some people. Oh, y'all come on in while we're waiting. Well, we're bowling. We're not playing golf that day. So this is like 10 in the morning, and we've got the bowling alley to ourselves, and they were not happy. They wanted to play golf, and the fact that we were jerking them around didn't make it any better, and the fact that we were bowling made it even worse. Well, it turned out to be as fun as it could have been, because now, rather than playing a foursome, and you got 2 of their guys and 2 of our guys, you only get to know those 2 guys. Well, now we're bowling on 4 lanes, we're switching teams, we're mixing it all up. The pitchers of beer are coming, the dips and chip, and so you got to know everybody, hang out with everybody, and they were mad for about the first game, but once we got through the first game, we couldn't have had a better time. So it was kind of fun to kind of stick it to them a little bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, flying voyager number 6, the opposing solo from Mount Florida, Lieutenant Ray Miller.
I have 2 lives. There was a fork in the road. I have a life that I had before a Blue Angel, and I have a life that happened once I became a Blue Angel. And it took me places and did things for me. Even now, somebody will mention something and I'll meet somebody that I would have never met had that not happened in my life. And I had a great life before that. I mean, it's not like I was, miserable or something, but, if my life was this good before, it was that good after. And I've met so many great people and gone places and done things and still hang out with guys on the team. There's a bunch of us that go skiing out in Colorado in February. 8 or 9 of us that like skiing. We also did a charity event. Well, we're doing one now with the Blue Angel Foundation. Obviously involved with a lot of guys there doing good work to help raise money for wounded vets. But a lot of us had done a charity event before that, working with Bernie Willett, an honorary, to raise money for, one was a golf event. We raised money for breast cancer, and the other was a ski event to raise money for cystic fibrosis. And we did that for 27, 8 years, whatever it was. Raised millions of dollars for both those charities. And so a lot of that was hanging out with those same guys.
So yeah, I just want to put a big thank you to the folks that put that video together. Mr. Molnar he's a great guy, really a great guy. He had a red convertible, oh gosh, I don't know what year it was, Cadillac. He'd drive that thing in and park it there in the Blue Angel parking lot and everything. And he'd had the thing for a long time. He was just, he had a great sense of humor. Really, really fun to be around. Wasn't too full of himself at all. Just a regular guy. We had such great pilots when I was on the team. He talked about Mr. Skelton, great guy. I have a video that I made of Mr. Skelton when he was the narrator of the team, and we joked at him in the video that I made. It's an amazing experience, one that I'll always hold dear to my heart, to have been on the team. And a lot of the video that you saw there's a chance that I might be in some of those videos. I haven't gone back and looked closely to see if I'm in any of the crew shots there that they showed at the beginning. But the winter training, everything he described there, I was there for. It's kind of cool to see and hear. And I remember the deal with the Thunderbirds when they came. One of the things on the team was, the Thunderbirds were kind of joking that our shirts looked like bowling jerseys or bowling shirts. That was one of their little gigs at us. So I have a feeling that had a lot to do with why they ended up at a bowling alley. But at the same time, while the pilots were doing that, we were hanging out with the Thunderbird enlisted team. There's a softball game. There's a trophy that goes back and forth between the teams as to who wins the softball game. Unfortunately, that year, I believe we lost that game that year. And our Master Chief of the squadron, he had to take a pie in the face for losing the softball game at the thing. I didn't actually use Thumper. We didn't have nicknames as far as people on the team. The enlisted guys, a few guys had nicknames, but for the most part, it's just my name. But the interesting thing, I didn't know this about Mr. Molnar, was that, he was flying off the Shitty Kitty out in the Indian Ocean during the Iranian hostage crisis. And I was flying out there on P-3 reconnaissance aircraft at the time. So we were, and he joined the military, the Navy, about the same time I did. So it was pretty cool. I've got one more real short little video here that I want to share with you guys. And this one here is just kind of a little promo that was done in conjunction with the Thunderbirds, the Blue Angel team this year. So check it out. It's less than a minute long here. Check it out. It's pretty cool. Just thought I'd share that with you. So anyway, air show season's coming up. Should be a lot of fun. Hopefully it won't be preempted due to COVID or any other silliness that might be going on between now and then. You folks will be able to get out there and enjoy an air show or two, depending on where you're at. So anyway, that's it for my little deal on the Blue Angels this morning. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Yeah, the Blue Angels paint scheme is a classic. They've added something to the Fat Albert paint job on the new C-130. At least something I didn't notice on the old one is they have a yellow stripe that goes down the side that we didn't have before. It used to be just white on top, blue on the bottom, and U.S. Navy Blue Angels written on it, and that. So not wrappers, not wrappers, Indy. Those are painted. Well, when I was on the team, we painted them. And when he talked about that Blue Angel FA-18 that was rolled out there at the last A4 air show, I helped sand that thing and prep it and get it ready for the painters to do the paint job on it, because we had to have it painted and ready for that air show for the new rollout. Tomcats got cheated. Okay, the deal with the Tomcat. The Tomcat is a two-seater. Okay, you have the pilot and the Rio. That is one of the main reasons why the Tomcat never went to the Blue Angels. That and the fact that it was a swept wing, adjustable wing aircraft. The higher speed you went, the wings would sweep back into a more aerodynamic configuration than when they were flying at slow speeds. And you can't, imagine the difficulty you would have in a really tight Blue Angel formation, and your wings are moving in and out. The width of the aircraft is actually changing. Granted, the F-14 is an amazing aircraft, but it just wouldn't have worked in an air show configuration. I know they looked at it; they probably would have loved to have done it, but the technical aspects of using the F-14 would have been different. Let's see, Liberty 2020. Let's let me see here. Let me see if I can find that out. I can't tell you that information right off the bat, but let's see. Do a quick search here. And I got a goofy dog that wants in. The Boeing FA-18E and the FA-18F Super Hornet are twin-engine, carrier-capable, multi-role fighter aircraft variants based on the McDonnell Douglas FA-18 Hornet. The F-18E single seat and the F-18F tandem seat variants are larger and more advanced derivatives of the F-18C and D Hornet. The Super Hornet has an internal 20 millimeter M61 rotary cannon. It can carry air-to-air missiles and air-to-surface weapons. Additional fuel can be carried up to 5 external fuel tanks, and the aircraft can be configured as an airborne tanker by adding an external air refueling system. Designed initially and produced by McDonnell Douglas, the Super Hornet first flew in 1995. Low-rate production began in early 1997, with full-rate production starting in September of 1997, after the merger of the McDonnell Douglas and Boeing the previous month. The Super Hornet entered the fleet service with the United States Navy in 1999, replacing the Grumman F-14 Tomcat, which was retired in 2006. The Super Hornet serves alongside the original Hornet, the Royal Australian Air Force, the RAAF, which has operated the F-18A as its main fighter since 1984. 1884, yeah, that's pretty good, man. Way ahead of our time. Ordered the F-18F in 2007 to replace its aging General Dynamics F-111C. Let's see here. Design overview. Let's go there. Okay, the Super Hornet is largely a new aircraft, about 20% larger, 7,000 pounds heavier, empty weight, and 15,000 pounds heavier maximum weight than the original Hornet. So it is a larger aircraft, just in general. All right, 20% larger. The Super Hornet carries 33% more internal fuel, increasing mission range by 41% and endurance by 50% over the legacy Hornet. The empty weight of the Super Hornet is about 11,000 pounds, less than that of the F-14 Tomcat, which it replaced. While approaching but not matching. Let me put this up on screen. I forgot I wasn't sharing with you guys. Here, let's put it up on screen here. This is from Wikipedia. Approaching but not matching the F-14's payload and range. As the Super Hornet is significantly heavier than the legacy Hornet, the catapult and resting systems must be set differently to aid safe flight operations and prevent confusion in radio calls. The Super Hornet is informally referred to as the Rhino to distinguish it from earlier Hornets. The Rhino nickname was previously applied to the F-14 or the McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II, which was retired from the fleet in 1987. The Super Hornet, unlike the previous Hornet, is designed to be equipped with an aerial refueling system. And let's see, what other? Tactical airborne, take a roll, blah, 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 blah. Let's see. The forward fuselage is unchanged, but the remainder of the aircraft shares little with the F-18 C and D models, the original F-18. Something you can see here in this photo, there's a remarkable difference between the two. Here is the original F-18, and here is the new Super Hornet F-18. You can see the leading edge here is significantly different than the leading edge on the standard Hornet. You notice that there's a this part of the aircraft is probably about the only thing that's really the same. Obviously, the intakes are much different. These are much larger, which facilitates the larger, more powerful engine of the Super Hornet. And because it weighs more, you can actually see the landing strut here is just a bit beefier than the one on the original Hornet. All right. As well as the landing gear. If you look at the landing gear, you can barely see it here at the bottom of the photo, but you can see the struts, the main landing gear, are significantly more beefed up than the original Hornet. So yeah, there's definitely some unique differences there. Let's see. The General Electric F414 engine, developed from the Hornet's F404, has 35% additional thrust over most of the aircraft's flight envelope. The Super Hornet can return to an aircraft carrier with a larger load of unspent fuel and munitions than the original Hornet. Its ability is this ability is known as bring back, which the Super Hornet is in excess of 9,000 pounds. Other differences include intake ramps for the engines, 2 extra wing hard points for payload for a total of 11 different mounting points, retaining previous hard points on the bottom center line, wingtips, and 2 conformal fuselage positions. Among the most significant aerodynamic changes are the enlarged leading edge extensions. And that's what we were talking about up here right near the cockpit. You can see there's much larger leading edge extensions, which provide improved vortex lifting characteristics and high angle of attack maneuvers, and reduce the static stability margin to enhance pitching characteristics. This results in pitch rates in excess of 40 degrees per second and high resistance to departure from controlled flight. So survivability is an important feature of the Super Hornet design. The U.S. Navy took a balanced approach to survivability in its design. This means that it does not rely on very low observable technology, i.e. stealth. Instead, its design incorporates a combination of signature reduction, advanced electronic warfare capabilities, reduced ballistic vulnerability, use of standoff weapons, and innovative tactics that collectively enhance the safety of the fighter crew in an affordable manner. The F/A-18E and F's radar cross-section was greatly reduced from aspects mainly the front and the rear. The design of the engine inlets reduces the aircraft's frontal radar cross-section. The alignment of the leading edges and the engine inlets is designed to scatter radiation to the sides. Fixed fan light reflecting structures in the inlet tunnel divert radar energy away from the rotating fan blades. And then they also, the serration, that jagged edge that they use. The aircraft, a lot of the aircraft fuselage is constructed of carbon. Well, the F/A-18 was carbon fiber. I believe they probably are still using the carbon fiber as one of the components of the fuselage. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff here on these things, but they're about 20% larger than the original F/A-18, which is again, that's why you're basically flying a completely new aircraft here in an air show, which is the reason why they are taking that extra time during winter training this year to become familiar with it and decide, it probably will significantly change the air show to some degree, because the capabilities of the aircraft in one way or the other, they may be able to add a new high power maneuver or something, depending on the increased performance of the aircraft. Also, because of its larger size, the formation is going to look a little bit different, and getting used to how that all plays together. One thing I did notice in watching some of the videos that they have on their website for winter training, I'm really very impressed with what I have seen so far, as the how well they are doing in flying the maneuvers. I mean, they are getting really close, flying very, very well together, this early in the season. And so, I was kind of surprised when I saw this picture, because I went, gosh, those airplanes look so big compared to the Air Force Thunderbirds. And then when I didn't realize that the Super Hornet was 20% larger just overall. You know, yeah, that explains why they kind of dwarf the Thunderbird airplanes, because I've seen the Thunderbird airplanes. They're very impressive. And so yeah, very, very impressive. The air shows will be louder and faster. Pretty exciting, I'm sure. Absolutely. All right. So that is my United States Navy Blue Angel report for this Sunday. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Red Hornet and Blue Thunderbirds over New York. Yeah, the F-22, it walks on air. Absolutely. Yeah, and not to take nothing away from the Army. Go Army! Fly high with the Air Force. Navy's my deal. Obviously, if you know me very well, you know. Yes, Smoke is out there on the back porch. He's he feels he needs to be inside. It's a beautiful day out there, but he likes to sit out there. Cooper will never ever bark at the door. Never barks at the door. And Smoke, like his mother, just like his mom, he will bark at the door. Little twerp. Oh, let's see here. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, because I've got a goofy dog at the back door. This is some shots of from the cockpit of one of the, I'm not sure if this is a solo. I believe it is a solo, one of the solos. And this is at winter training. The desert that you see him flying over here is I am very familiar with, because I sat out here in that on that desert as they were doing all of this training, all these training flights. And at one point in the video here, he actually flies over the what we called center point. It was a marker in the desert. And they graded in the desert this big long straight line that represents like an airfield, and so that they can line up correctly and everything. And then in the center of that, halfway down that graded line through the desert, you'll see a little trailer. You'll see a little white trailer out there, and that depicts center point. Center point is the center of the air show. When you go to an air show, if you look out there, if you go to a Blue Angel air show, you'll always see something parked out on the airfield right by the flight line, by the runway. And that point is exactly 1,500 feet from the crowd line. Going out from the crowd line, it's 1,500 feet out, and then all of the show maneuvers are all designed so that they have a marking point at 1,500 feet right and 1,500 feet left of that center point. And so for all of the timing and everything, the speed and the timing from their different marks that they use at each one of the air show sites, there's aerial photos that they will look at, and they'll pick out, okay, that house down there, that ball field down there, that water tower over here, whatever, ground easily recognizable ground points as their mark in and turn in points. So before they go to the air show, they have all these aerial photographs, and they start doing measurements on them and things. Then when they get to the air show site, they have what they call circle and arrival maneuvers. That happens on Thursday when the jets show up. Before they even land, they fly around the field, and you'll see them. If you're ever there, it's just like, what in the heck are they doing? They're flying this way and that way and everything. Well, what the pilots are doing are going around and picking up those reference points for real that they chose out of the photos. And then they start figuring out their timing into that center point object, so that when you're looking at it, if you are within that cone, starting at center point and going out to 1,500 feet either side of it at the crowd line, you will get the best effect of the airplanes crossing each other, doing their maneuvers and everything, because everything is designed to be the most impressively looking as they cross over that center point. And so if one is a little late or a little early or whatever, the effect isn't what they strive for. All right. So, but this is where all the, it all comes together during this training. So let's start the video for you guys. Okay, there's the end of the video here. Now I'm gonna roll it back just a little bit here, and you see here's the other aircraft down here, just in the just off center to the left. Okay, down below him, and then you see this white trailer out here, and this line in the desert. Well, they go out there and I think they take a couple of graders or whatever, and they just grade out a big straight line down through the desert there. All right. And this trailer there, that's the center point. So that's 1,500 feet out this way, and then 1,500 feet back this way. So that's the markers on the ground. Now, as you get up a little bit closer here, when you heard Mr. Molnar talking about going out to the desert and practicing the narration during the practices out in the desert, what you see right there, that's where we set up. We drive out there every morning, 6 days a week during winter training. We take a pickup truck with all kinds of equipment, radio gear, camera gear, water coolers, our lunch, the whole works. And you go out there early in the morning, it's cold. By the afternoon, you're down to shirts and a t-shirt. We weren't out there in uniform. We're out there casual. We'd also, when the narrator was coming out, we'd bring the PA system out and set up a couple of speakers and the PA system, and he would practice his narration during the practices. So we'd sit out here, we'd get out there very early in the morning, have about an hour before the first flight of the day, The base is over here, and we could see them when they take off because they do their takeoff standard takeoff maneuvers when they leave to come out to into this desert area to do the training. Ricky Ross says 10% of Blue Angels die in crashes. The Blue Angels has one of the safest flight records of all of the demonstration teams out there. We did lose, we lost one of our pilots here a couple of years ago in an incident. We did have a crash the first year that we were out there when he was talking about Mr. Anderson, the lead solo that Mr. Molnar was flying with. Hollywood flamed out one of the FA-18s, flying it upside down in the desert because we were testing the how long an F-18 could fly upside down before it would run out of fuel, because all the fuel catch fuel sits in the bottom of the tank when you turn the jet upside down. Yes, I did let the dogs in. Epic. The dogs are in. When you turn the jet upside down, there's a catch tank that would catch a certain amount of fuel. And, in a fighter situation, you're not going to be flying upside down for long lengths of time. But in a Blue Angel air show, you have to get from one end of the field to the other, depending on the maneuver, upside down. So you have to make sure you have enough fuel to complete the maneuver, get the aircraft rolled back up, and maintain fuel flow to the engines. We didn't know how long that little catch tank, as it rolled upside down, would catch that fuel and keep fuel running to the engines. So Mr. Anderson, or Hollywood was his call sign, went up to altitude and flipped it over on its back and flew until the engine sputtered. Unfortunately, he was not able to get it relit, unfortunately. And the aircraft ended up landing out in the desert on the only set of railroad tracks in the area. The airplane actually, came in on, floated down. He ejected from the aircraft, and when he knew he couldn't get it lit, but there was nothing out there in the desert for miles and miles and miles except for that one mainline railroad track, and it landed on the damn thing. We got a little, we got some press out of that. Not the best press you want to have, but we did find out how long that the F-18 could fly upside down before it ran out of fuel, which was more than sufficient to fly the air shows. So, just one of the silly stories that you pick up when just another day in the Navy. I don't remember exactly what the how long that time frame was. Russian bot. Let's see. Morale of the military and the taxpayer is important. Airshow budgets is in the top quintile of DoD money invested. Let's see, that video that's out on Facebook. I hate going into Facebook because it jams up my computer when I have so much stuff open. Facebook eats memory on a computer. Oh, Ruth Stain bot from Twitter. Okay. You guys have any other questions I can try to answer for you? Did the CO threaten you with flying rubber donuts from Hong Kong after? No. Have you seen the article, the New York Evening, that claims HRC has been arrested? I've seen that. Don't know what to tell you about it. I mean, we've seen a lot of things. If you were to ask me off the record, okay, so to speak, I would say she's already been arrested because she remember, she had something on her ankle, right? Same thing. She wore a boot for a long time. Same thing with Herbert Bush, George Herbert Bush. We also saw that with Hillary. You know, she wore the boot for a while. McCain wore the boot for a while. Even interestingly enough, the current POTUS wore the boot on his foot because they didn't want any, they, okay. So it's off the record. I would weigh heavily that anybody that you have ever seen with a boot on, they're being closely monitored, which means they have been picked up already, but they are allowed to stay in the public eye for a specific reason. Okay, whatever that reason might be. Remember, you're watching a movie, and in the movie you need actors. Okay, and if you can get the real person to play the role instead of using a stand-in, a body double, that's supposition on my part. But I would say that Hillary is she's playing a role, whether she likes it or not. If she's doing what she normally would do, and that suits the mission, that's just as part of the movie. If you can get the real actors to play their parts, play themselves, well, who better to do it than the Dynamex? Yes, I have ridden in a helicopter. Not too often, but during my training days in Pensacola, when I was going through aircrew school, they take you out into the bay there, Pensacola Bay, and they use an LST with a special rack. It's like a diving tower almost, built onto the back of it, and all out of metal tubing and what have you. And part of the training is to, if you ever have to jump out of an aircraft, parachute down into water, you need to be able to learn how to hit the water correctly and then get out of that parachute, because that parachute will drag you down. Once that silk gets wet and starts sinking, it will drag you down, and you get caught up in the cords and all kinds of things. So it's really important once you hit the water that you learn the proper technique for hitting the water so that you don't get hurt. I mean, you're still falling. You're under a parachute, but you're still falling. And then if that parachute, let's say that parachute gets, it's a windy day, and then the parachute starts dragging you through the water, what do? If you're face down, well, you're gonna have a problem. And chances are, possibly, if you've just bailed out of an airplane, you might be injured, or you might have disoriented, cold water, whatever. I mean, there's just any number of different circumstances that you might find yourself in that kind of a situation. So what they do is they take you out there on this LST, and you climb up onto the tower there. You have a parachute rig on without the parachute, and it's just the harness, and they hook you up to the it's like it's a rail. It's a rail, and it has rollers on it. And it's got this little carriage that rolls on that rail, and from that is a harness that you connect to your parachute harness, and then they give you a shove, and as the little carriage rolls out to the end of the rail, when it gets to the end of the rail, it releases the parachute harness contraption, and there's a line going from the boat to your harness, and you fall into the water, and you hit the water, and the boat's moving. Okay, the boat's trucking along through the water. We called it trolling for sharks. That was its nickname, trolling for sharks. And LST, landing craft, yes. Flat-bottomed military landing craft. and so what the boat is basically doing is it's to simulate a parachute dragging you through the water. And the first thing you do is you roll over on your back. Okay. And then once you roll over onto your back, then you release the harness connectors, and you release one side, and then the other side, and then you roll out of it. You tuck an arm and you roll out of it and get yourself out of that harness and get yourself away from the parachute. Okay. And then you have a raft that is deployed with you, or a personal flotation device that you have. It's called an LPA. When you're in flight, you wear them all the time. And it has the automatic inflating bladders and everything, and provides a life vest for you, as well as there's little pockets where there's a flashlight, there's a whistle, there's an emergency PRC 90 radio, so that you can call in any search aircraft or have comms with a search aircraft that might be coming in to pick you up out of the water. And so during that training scenario, the next phase, once they've littered everybody out in this big, huge line as they've been driving around the bay, dropping people in and dragging them around, and then the guys getting in, either in their floating in their LPAs. Then you have the helicopter come in, and in this case, it's a big twin rotor Chinook, one of the big guys, and they have the life ring and the rescue cable that comes down. And they usually don't throw a swimmer into the water for us because we're all in good shape. Nobody's gotten hurt, hopefully. And but there's certain things about that, because you have these rotors that are rotating up on the helicopter, and they're generating a tremendous amount of static electricity. All right. And they drop that cable down to you from the aircraft. And if you go to touch it before it has touched the water, the static electricity can be significant enough to knock you on your ass. If you're not already, you're already in the water, but you touch that thing, it'll shock you, and it can knock you out. It can hurt you. So they teach you to, let them dip that thing in the water first. That discharges the static electricity, and then they'll maneuver it over to you, and then you got to grab it and get into that harness. And once they see that you're in the harness, then they lift you up into the helicopter, and you're cold, depending on the time of year. I was down there. It was about early spring is when I got to do it. So it wasn't the warmest, but it wasn't too bad. And then, they lift you into the helicopter. And once they've got enough people in the helicopter, they run them back to shore, drop them all off, and then go pick up the rest of the shark bait out there in the water. And that was my only time. Let's see, I'm trying to remember. I don't think I've ever, that was my only time in a helicopter. So, like I said, going through that aircrew training, absolutely, just a fascinating time. And, I wouldn't trade my experiences in the military for nothing. It was absolutely a fantastic time. Great. Always served with some really, really great people. You run into a few twits every now and then, as you do in everywhere else. But we did do parasailing as well. There was another time when just learning how to operate the parachute. They took us during aircrew training, and they took us out to a big field in Pensacola there, where they had a pickup, a truck that had a winch and everything on the back of it, with a parachute attached, and we tie into it just like you would, you see the parasailing in the resorts in Acapulco and stuff like that. Basically the same thing, only we were doing it on dry land. And they hooked us into the parachute, got the parachute, guys would hold it up so it would catch the air. And then the truck would drive along, just, it doesn't take much, a couple of miles per hour, really. And, immediately you're lifted up. And then as they kind of pick up a little speed with the truck, then they would open up the winch and let the line draw out. You were always attached to the truck. They didn't release you from the truck, and it give you a little experience of hanging from a parachute in a parasailing kind of a situation. And then what they do is they would stop the truck once you were up, and then more or less let the parachute bring you back down onto hard ground. And then you would practice your, how to land properly under a parachute. That too, it's the, feet together, knees bent, and, your hands crossed over your chest. And then you hit the ground and you drop and roll. And then, if you don't have a parachute, that's, what you want to do is you want to get that parachute deflated as quickly as possible, because it, again, just like out on the water, it will drag you around. So you want to get that parachute deflated as much, get it flat on the ground, and that. So did I bumper ski? No, I skied. I'm a pretty accomplished skier. I haven't skied for several years now, probably about 7 or 8 years now. It was the last time I went skiing, but prior to that, very, very avid skier. And all right. Anything else, guys? I mean, it's kind of fun, but you know what? I've not bungee jumped, never cross countryed. But I've gone fast, really fast in cars. I've raced not motorcycles, but go-karts at over 100 miles an hour. Just, didn't plan on doing anything. It just seemed like it was fun to do at the time. Yeah. All right. Let's get to something else. Let's see what's happening in the world. This is let's go to Sorsha Fall and whatdoesitmean.com. And let's see what they're saying. This came out yesterday, and this is what they're saying over there. Russia makes case for war against doomsday cult. America to stop genocide. A thought-provoking new Security Council SC report circulating in the Kremlin today, examining the question now being asked by global defense experts. Could an Archduke Franz Ferdinand moment trigger world war between the United States and communist China? Archduke Franz Ferdinand was that was the trigger point for World War II. Okay. And it was completely contrived by the deep state. They used that as the rally call to go to war. So figure the odds. If we know that, everybody else knows that, and they know, they're not going to get drawn into that kind of a situation again, I'm pretty sure. It says no sooner than it being noticed this week that the U.S. and China had moved from a tariff war to a technology war. The Pentagon revealed a few hours ago that it is assessing systems after tens of thousands of servers were compromised in global Microsoft hack they blamed on Chinese hackers. Interesting. I noticed a few of you guys were mentioning some things about Microsoft and this hack, and the fact that we saw the banking system for the Federal Reserve go down here a few days ago. Was it this week or last week? I can't remember. Things go so fast. Anyway, but we had the Federal Reserve banking system all of a sudden went. It was down for like 3 hours. What was that about? We can only surmise. Sees this occurring at the same time Beijing increases its defense budget as the United States eyes encircling communist China in a battle for regional dominance, and it being most rightly observed, welcome to the new arms race. And further sees those like Professor Glenn Deason at the University of Southeastern Norway stating that a Russia and China partnership is not only about containing American aggression, but is also vital for the creation of multipolar world order. What do they mean by that? Multipolar world order. Let's open this link in a new tab, see if that gives us any context to that. Russia and China's partnership, not only about containing American aggression, but also vital for creation of multipolar world order. It's common for Western observers to dismiss the emerging strategic partnership between Russia and China as merely a marriage of convenience and a union excessively reliant on shared opposition to U.S. foreign policy ambitions, or so they would want everybody to believe. Thus, it's expected that under the surface, centuries of distrust linger, and as China continues to grow, eventually power rivalry and a divorce would follow, meaning between Russia and China. Their common opposition to the U.S. has indeed intensified the partnership, and historical distrust and power asymmetries between Russia and China must be managed. However, Beijing will not replace Washington as the nemesis of Moscow. Instead, Greater Eurasia is being organized as a multipolar region capable of accommodating Russia. Russia's vision of a multipolar order is not possible without a strong China. After the Western support of the 2014 maiden coup in Ukraine, Russia ended its 3 centuries-long Western-centric foreign policy and the post-Cold War ambition to integrate with the West. Russia replaced its ambition for Greater Europe with the Greater Eurasia initiative that advanced economic integration on the supercontinent. At the center of the Greater Eurasia initiative is a strategic partnership with China. So you kind of get a feel for where that's going there. How well is Russia and China going to be able to work together? Let's go back to come on. All right. And so it continues on. And in laying out the historical basis for this alliance, says Russia's vision of multipolar order is not possible without a strong China. So Russia is not going to, rule the world. You're basically they're going to have China along with them to create that mega consortium or partnership that would be able to rival what the United States is capable of doing. All right. So Russia's vision of a multipolar order is not possible without a strong China. After the Western support for the okay, so they're basically saying the same thing we just said that was said in that article. Okay, Russia replaced its ambition for Greater Europe with the Greater Eurasia initiative that advanced economic integration on the supercontinent. Though kept from the knowledge of the American people, who would do that? Would they keep something from us? Are they trying to hide something from us? Is there more to the whole thing here? The Obama-Biden regime overthrow of the democratically elected government of the Ukraine. What's going on in Ukraine? Ukraine's been a kind of a pain in everybody's side for one reason or another the past several years. Was assessed by the world's leading American-based global private intelligence firm, Stratfor, aka the Shadow CIA, as being the most blatant coup in history. With the Supreme Socialist leader Joe Biden having been placed back into power, makes it no surprise that Alexander Lukashevich, Russia's permanent representative to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE, OSCE, had to grimly report this week that Ukraine's policy to deprive the residents of Crimea of water in an attempt at genocide, with his exactly stating, the right to water is a prerequisite for the realization of other human rights. And under the UN General Assembly resolution from 2010, depriving the population of access to water can be equated to an attempt at genocide. So that's what's been going on in the Ukraine. So obviously, Ukraine is still playing games. Okay, the Ukraine's a problem. Why were they working so closely with the Democrats? Why were they so much willing to put Hunter Biden on the board of directors and all the other stuff? You know, Joe Biden going over there and saying, "Yeah, if you don't take that guy out, we're gonna, you know, we're not gonna give you the money." Okay, the current acting 46, you know, actually went over there and you know, pay for play. Yeah, and that's you know, that's our acting 46. That I guess that's his bona fides for becoming the 46th person to be anointed by the press as the president of this country. With large numbers of nearly 2.5 million Russian citizens of Crimea being restricted to just 6 hours of water a day as Ukraine's supply blockade takes its toll, and the Crimean reservoir being almost empty, further threatening a humanitarian crisis in the peninsula. And the last option available to alleviate this crisis is by military force, which would entail the deployment of Russian combat forces into Ukraine, if necessary, the removal of the genocidal Ukrainian regime. Could there be other reasons why they would be going in there as well? Is this an opportunity of opportunities, much like what might be happening in our country right now? Though Ukraine is not a member of the US-led NATO alliance, a Biden-ordered move of American military forces to confront Russia, should such an invasion scenario develop, must be considered. Specifically because an order unleashing American military forces against Russia would result in the use of tactical nuclear weapons, and as called for by the Russian military doctrine on the use of nuclear weapons, that says their use is for demonstrating the willingness and determination to employ force, including non-strategic nuclear weapons. Note, non-strategic nuclear weapons are otherwise known as tactical nuclear weapons, which have lower yields than strategic nuclear weapons, which are known as ICBMs. With Russia being a Christian theocracy, a form of government in which a deity of some type is recognized as the supreme ruling authority, example, Israel is a Jewish theocracy, Iran is an Islamic theocracy, its military actions are strictly bound by the just war doctrine that defines situations in which the waging of war becomes a moral necessity, and was last enacted in 2015, which was when Russia declared a holy war in Syria to defend the Christians being savagely murdered by barbaric Islamic terrorists, and saw the head of Russia's powerful Orthodox Church's public affairs department, Vyacheslav Chaplin, declaring, "The fight with terrorism is a holy battle, and today our country is perhaps the most active force in the world fighting it." In assessing the situation of waging war as moral necessity against America, no other conclusion can be reached other than this nation is under the socialist leadership of a doomsday cult. A doomsday cult. You know, I was listening to the radio yesterday, and I was out in the car, and they were talking about this cult, the cult of the Trump cult. It's a cult. It's a cult. And now we have Church of Fall, referring to the doomsday cult. Oh, however, this is under the socialist leadership of one nuts, you know, off his rocker, can't think, you know, two words out in front of what he wants to say, otherwise known as Biden 46. An expression used to describe cults that believe in apocalypticism and whose socialist leaders beguile their faithful members with nonstop predictions that the world is coming to an end. Yeah. Does the world have to come to an end? But no, but, Cold War, all of this stuff. It's a cult. It's a cult of doom, cult of doomsday, fear mongering. Some of whose failed end of the world predictions over the past 50 years include, oh, this is fun. 1976, the New York Times, the cooling University of Wisconsin climatologist Stephen Schneider laments about the deaf ear his warnings received. 1988, Agence France Presse, Maldives will be completely underwater in 30 years. We've gone 30 years. They're not underwater yet. 1989, Associated Press, UN official says rising seas to obliterate nations by year 2000. Well, we're 20 years later and hasn't happened yet, has it? 1989, Salon, New York City's West Side Highway, underwater by 2019. I don't think it's happened yet. Do you? Anybody on it? I've been down to the West Side Highway in New York City's West Side. Did you have to have a boat? Probably not. Said Jim Hansen, the scientist who lectured Congress in 1988, the year my son was born. He's 32 now, about the greenhouse effect. 2000, The Independent, snowfalls are a thing of the past. Our children will not know what snow is, says senior climate researcher. Hello, tell everybody in all up and down the East Coast. Who's fired up their snowblower in the last couple of days? Hello. 2004, The Guardian, the Pentagon tells Bush climate change will destroy the U.S. Britain will be Siberian in less than 20 years, the Pentagon told Bush. How you folks over in on the British Isles there? How you guys doing? Are you are you doing ice sculptures today? 2008, Associated Press, and NASA scientist says we're toast. In 5 to 10 years, the Arctic will be ice-free. Oh well, now we're ice-free. Al Gore warns of ice-free Arctic by 2013. Still is frozen over. The Independent, Prince Charles says not just 96 months to save the world. The price of capitalism is too high. 2009, The Independent, Gordon Brown says we have fewer than 50 days to save our planet from catastrophe. Oh, well, he sure missed that one, didn't he? 2013, The Guardian, the Arctic will be ice-free in 2 years. The release of a 50 gigaton of methane pulse will destabilize the planet. That's one gigantic cattle fart. 2013, The Guardian, U.S. Navy predicts ice-free Arctic by 2016. I wonder who the admiral is that doesn't work for the Navy anymore that made that. The U.S. Navy Departments of Oceanography use complex modeling to make its forecasts more accurate than others. I hope they got some new algorithms because they sure missed it on that one. 2014, John Kerry, we have 500 days to avoid climate chaos. 2014, John Kerry, I think you're going to have to eat those words. In just the past fortnight, this ever-expanding list of end-the-world predictions made by this socialist doomsday cult has been added to by leftist big tech giant multi-billionaire Billy Gates, who proclaimed, oh, here we go again, Billy Gates. Are you ready? The world is ending due to climate change. And by top Biden advisor, John Kerry, 2014, John Kerry, who warned we have 9 years left to avoid climate catastrophe. Wait a minute. In 2014, he said only 500 days. Now, is that, did we add the 9 years to the 500 days, or does that 500 days start now and go forward? I'm a little confused because John Kerry, the guy just doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Anyway, and as documented in all past instances of how powerful socialist death cults such as these are, sees its brainwashed adherents never being dissuaded from their beliefs when these predictions never come about. Oh, well, that was yesterday. Today's the day, you know. I wonder if maybe they feel how. No, I won't go there. Most particularly because when these predictions fail, the socialist leaders of these death cults just make up a new date for the coming apocalypse. And as best example today by the article, March 4 prediction about QAnon attack. Oh, did you love it? The the world is going to die. The sky's falling. So now they're predicting on March 4th, the QAnon attack was a mirage. And now media is talking about a new date. They just move it out there. How interesting is that? Huh? Which is why it's really, and we, I got to tell you, we ourselves, those of us that are doing this and following those posts that have been out there for the last couple of years, we've been drawn into similar situations where we are made to look like nut jobs as well by trying to guess what's coming. Okay. So I'm not putting down those posts at all, because many of them have panned out quite nicely, and some of them remain to still pan out. Okay. So, yeah, but just don't go around trying to figure out exactly when it's going to happen. It's going to happen when it happens. That's the bottom line. Okay. And if you run around going, oh, it's going to happen here, it's going to happen there, it's going to happen when it happens. Okay. And if it doesn't happen, you don't look like a freaking idiot by putting yourself out there when you really don't know. Yeah, I'll tell myself I'm going to the store today. I'm going to try to go around noontime. And what happens? I rarely make it on time, or even on the same day sometimes. Okay. The best laid plans sometimes go really wacky. And when you're in a war, the plans are always adjustable. Okay. So there's an explanation as to why so many Americans have been able to be brainwashed by this socialist doomsday cult. A glimpse was just provided by the leftist New York Times in their article, The Empty Religions of Instagram, wherein its writer shockingly reveals, on Instagram, I follow 700 people, mostly women. 100 of those women follow Glennon Doyle, whose memoir, Untamed, has been on the Times bestseller list for 51 weeks. Fans of Miss Doyle's gospel, an accessible combination of self-care, activism, and tongue-in-cheek Christianity, Jesus loves me, this I know, for he gave me a Lexpro. Okay, can worship at any time of the day or night at the electric church of her Instagram feed. By replacing the rigid dogma of religion with the confessional lingua franca of social media, Miss Doyle has become a charismatic preacher for women like me who aren't even religious. 22% of millennials are not affiliated with a specific religion. We are known as religious nuns, N-O-N-E-S. The Pew Research Center found that the number of nuns, N-O-N-E-S, in the population as a whole increased 9 percentage points from 2009 to 2019. The main reasons that nuns are unaffiliated are that they question religious teachings or they don't like the church's stance on social issues. But we are truly non-religious, or our belief systems too bespoke to appear on a list of major religions in a Pew phone survey. Our new belief system is a blend of left-wing political orthodoxy, intersectional feminism, self-optimization, therapy, wellness, astrology, and Dolly Parton. Okay. And we found a different kind of clergy, personal growth influencers, women like Miss Doyle, who offer nuns, N-O-N-E-S, like us, permission, validation, and community on demand at a time when it's nearly impossible to share communion in person. We don't even have to put down our phones. By being unmoored from Christian principles and morality, therefore, these Americans have become easy prey for their socialist doomsday cult leaders, who in turn keep feeding their unsuspecting brainwashed adherents a steady diet of fear. Most specifically, the fear these socialist monsters created and unleashed through their Event 201 pandemic war game. A pandemic war game these socialists planned to use to usher in the Great Reset in order to remake the world and abolish all human freedom, but whose failure to achieve their desired result of killing over 65 million in order to remake the world now sees this doomsday cult becoming dangerously unstable, and as best documented in the just published lengthy research article, How the Fight Over American Freedom Will Probably Escalate, whose final warning words for the American people state, eventually leftists and the establishment will realize that conservatives will be harder to subjugate than they expected. They will discover that a large part of the U.S. military and law enforcement is on our side. They will start to see mutiny among the people that they rely on as cannon fodder to carry out their dictates. Even now, there are sheriff's departments across the country refusing to enforce lockdown orders. And 30 to 50% of medical professionals say they will not be taking the COVID vaccine, depending on the state. When the rebellion goes live, this is when the globalists will have to pursue extreme options. They will not be able to win using domestic forces. Instead, they will seek out an international response, probably through the United Nations. Their rationale will be that the U.S. has an enormous nuclear arsenal and that the international community cannot allow these weapons to fall into the hands of white supremacists. They're building that narrative up, aren't they? This is when the real fight will begin. If international intervention fails in the U.S., the globalists will find their heads on the chopping block. Gee, wouldn't that be a shame? If the globalists win the fight in the U.S., then there will be very few people left to resist them in the years going forward. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. The cognitive dissonance would make your head explode. So that's it from whatdoesitmean.com. Hope you got something from that. I'll give you a link to that one. So take the mask off. I know somebody was playing a video yesterday of a mask burning session that people had. They had a big old, barrel out there, and everybody was taking their masks off and lighting them on fire and throwing them into the barrel. And to be quite honest, I think that's appropriate. Don't flush them down your toilet. Don't put them in your trash. Burn them. That will get rid of the germs. And it's an appropriate way to sterilize those nasty things that have been sucking up all that vile, nasty crap that they've been saving you from, and you're saving everybody else from by wearing it. My ass. All right. So, all right, kids. That's going to be just about it for me. Let's see. What are we going to go out on today? Let's go to a good old favorite. I've kind of declared this Thumper's Navy Day. So we'll rock it out here to the United States Navy Band as I exit the room stage left, and we get ready for Mr. Chris to join us here. So let's see. Here we go. Y'all ready to turn it up? Make it happen. Here we go. Just a second. Here you go. Turn it up, everybody. Oh.
She was standing at the front door when I came home last night. She had the good book in the left hand and a rolling pin in the right. She said, "You come home you have to do. Give me just one more last chance before you say we're through. I know I drive you crazy, baby, it's the best that I can do. We're just good old boys and making noise, ain't running around on you. Give me just one more last chance before you say we're through. But first she hid my glasses, cause she knows that I can't see. Said you ain't going nowhere, boy, until you spend a little time with me. Then the boys called from the honky-tonk, said there's a party going on down here. Well, she might have hid my car keys, but she forgot about my old John Deere. So give me just one more last chance before you say we're through. I know I drive you crazy, baby, it's the best that I can do. We're just good old boys and making noise, I ain't running around on you. Give me just one more last chance before you say we're through. Yeah. Give me just one more last chance before you say we're through. Well, I know I drive you crazy, baby, it's the best that I can do. We're just good old boys and making noise, I ain't running around on you. Give me just one more last chance before you say we're through. Give me just one more last chance before you say we're through. Thank you very much.